So, tell us who you are and what you do.
So my name is Matt Parker. I used to work as a high school math teacher, but now I'm a general math communicator, I guess. I do a lot of work in schools, but I also try and convince even adults that they should enjoy more mathematics.
That's awesome.
It's good fun.
Yeah, so this is your second conference, is that right?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what your initial expectations were and then what your first experience was when you came to G4G last year.
Don't get me wrong, first time was amazing fun, but it was relentless. So it was just, hundreds of people, of which I knew, a trivial number, a rounding error worth of people. And now I have a steady stream of people coming up and saying hello, and I vaguely recognize and remember them. But it's nice to feel like now I've got a better sense of what happens. Last time it was overwhelming fun and too much to take in, whereas now I could arrive with a game plan and a strategy to try and, because only once every 2 years to really maximize what I can get out of it.
So as a math communicator and also as a performer, you're sort of in a lot of the aspects of the gatherings. So we have the magicians and the performers and the teachers and the mathematicians. So tell me a little bit about, what your experience is from your perspective of this conference.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's an unusual collection of people that do things that Martin Gardner was interested in. And so you're very much the magic side. So I think all people who are into kind of recreational mathematics, I learned like amateur level card tricks, ones that involve too much counting and were tedious for anything other than a highly math audience. And so I love the fact that I can indulge so many of my interests simultaneously here. So there's the kind of performing side, so there's all the fantastic performances, but yet there are people who get up who, I spoke to one person after they did their talk and they were like, well, I hate doing public speaking, I did not. But the burning passion to get up and talk about some interesting mathematics. They got up and they did it. And then that's great. Everyone, no one's like, oh, they weren't very good at public speaking or their PowerPoint presentation didn't work. But everyone's just like, they're here for the interesting bits of mathematics. But then at the same time, you can see fantastic, magicians do amazing close-up mathematics.
Right. So I heard about recreational mathematics for the first time here at the gathering. What would you sort of classify recreational mathematics as? How do you describe it?
Yeah, well, I had the same conversation on the way in through US border control, where they were like, why are you in the country? And I was like, oh, funny story. Okay, you should probably never start with funny story as you're coming through immigration. But I was like, oh, I'm going to I tried to as straight face as possible, I'm going to a recreational math conference. And the guy broke character. He's like, what is that? And I'm like, well, it's basically people who do math as a hobby. And he's like, okay, I can kind of get that. And I said, it's a bit like people who got bored of just doing Sudoku puzzles. And everyone can grasp that because and people often think Sudoku is not, it's not mathematics, but you go, well, you're using logic to try and solve a puzzle and you're doing it not because it's useful, there's some practical outcome, but because you enjoy the challenge of solving it. And so I say it's basically that, but a ridiculous range of puzzles, not just puzzles, it's anything that's interesting that uses that same part of the brain. And so I try and, it's a bit like a puzzle that you already kind of enjoy, but it's a lot more mathematical, I guess.
Right. So what did customs have to say after that explanation?
This guy said, oh, have you seen some of the YouTube videos about mathematics? And part of me thought, I should probably mention I make some of the YouTube videos about math. I went, no, let's let this run its course. And so it was amazing. This is some random person who works doing immigration, and they're aware that people make videos about mathematics for other people to watch and enjoy. And I went, I think it's a good test of how far, even though people may not know it's called recreational math, that just even that concept has gotten into society.
So you think he's going to go read some Martin Gardner books?
Well, hopefully, yeah. I should have given him a reading list and gone, hey, so the other thing I had to do, because the gift exchange is amazing fun. And I always wonder when I'm coming into the country, I'm like, I brought 300 and something, well, actually I brought exactly 314 because that's hilarious, copies of a thing to hand out at the gift exchange. And no spoiler alerts here. And I was like, I should put that on the form says, are you bringing lots of things for commercial reasons? I should probably fill that in. Right, and actually what I'm bringing is like a mathematical measuring tape. And they said, oh, you've filled this thing on the form. And they said, you have to go off and talk to someone else. I had to go back. And they're like, okay, show us how it works. And it's a thing that you can use to measure circumference and diameter on various objects. And they were like, and they were running around getting objects from around the immigration thing for me to go and measure all this stuff. And I was like, at the end, I was like, because you're not allowed to joke. There's no joking with immigration because they can arrest me. and deport me or hold me for a very long time without trial. And so what I thought I would do was very calmly, I was like, okay, as long as this doesn't count as a bribe, would you like one? And so I gave them, I did a gift exchange with immigration, checking my suitcase to make sure I wasn't bringing anything I shouldn't. So there you are.
Talk a little bit more about the gift exchange, about your experiences with it and kind of what it's like to be a part of it.
This is what's been passed on to me from the gathering elders, is that back in the day, people would bring things to show Martin. And I found this cool puzzle, this toy or whatever. And so someone went, look, this is going to get ridiculous. I tell you what, you're allowed to give something to him if you bring enough for everyone. And everyone's like, oh, okay, we can do that. And so now it's evolved into this thing where if you want to, you can bring 3, 4, you can bring N hundred copies of a thing, and that gets distributed into bags, and then you get a bag with one of everyone else's thing. And so very excited. I can't tell you the anticipation I have of getting the bag of math toys.
Yeah, that's great. And of all the gathering that you've experienced so far, are there any things that stuck out as sort of particularly
There's
memorable?
always, I mean, what's the amazing thing, because I'm sure a lot of people talk about the gathering and go, it's amazing because you get to hang out with similar people and you get a sense of community and all these things, which are all very true. But it's also just meeting people you wouldn't get to meet otherwise and being exposed to new ideas and concepts. And my favorite moment from this gathering so far was someone came up to me and went, oh, hi. First of all, they introduced themselves and we were chatting. And then they went, oh, I'm one of the authors of a research paper you mentioned in a YouTube video, and now my students keep coming up to me and saying, oh, did you see that your research was in this video? And so it's like the bits of math that I learn and play with at home and talk about, I can actually meet some of the people who are involved in it, and that is, you know, such a privilege.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, thanks so much for sharing all that with us today.
My pleasure.
Yeah.